Of all the things on her to-do list for the year, Giselle had never anticipated being offered money by her boyfriend's father to stay away from him, and they weren't even a real couple. She redirected her attention to the middle-aged man sitting in front of her.
Can you repeat that? You're offering to pay me to keep my distance from your son?
She couldn't help but laugh.
I'm afraid I cannot allow you to date my son.
Samuel Leroy stated.
I'm sure you're a decent woman.
He said with a hint of disdain, as though he didn't believe his own words.
But at the end of the day, Caspian is the heir to a multi-billion-dollar company, and I won't let him jeopardize it all for a woman. No offense.
Giselle felt genuinely offended. It was the 21st century, and yet there were still old-fashioned individuals like Samuel who did things like this.
So, if I understand correctly, you're unwilling to let him risk it all for a woman, but would you be okay if he did it for a man?
His face contorted with even more disapproval.
Don't be offensive.
Now she was being offensive.
Listen, Giselle, I'm willing to write you a blank check just so you'll stay away from my son. All you have to do is name your price.
A blank check?
Giselle couldn't help but note how desperate the man seemed. He nodded.
It's a tempting offer, I have to admit.
And it truly was.
But I'm afraid I have to decline.
The man's face morphed into disbelief. This tactic had worked in the past.
I'm offering you the opportunity to name any amount of money you desire, but you're turning it down for Caspian. Is he worth it?
Giselle pretended to think for a moment, though she was seething inside.
It's not a matter of him being worth it. It's about my pride and dignity. The fact that you believe you can put a price on your son makes you a sick man.
She pushed her chair back and stood up.
I love Caspian, and we're happy together.
Grabbing her bag from the chair, she put on her sunglasses and added,
I would invite you to the party we're hosting tonight, but I'd rather not see your face again. Good day, sir.
With that, she exited the restaurant. Giselle climbed into the back seat of her agent's waiting car and let out an exaggerated sigh before removing her sunglasses. She took out her phone, dialed Caspian's number.
So, your dad just tried to buy me off. He offered me a blank check to stay away from you. What's that all about?
Caspian's voice came from the other end.
I'm sorry about that, Giselle. Were you able to handle it?
Of course.
A smug smile crossed her face.
I turned it down and made a dramatic exit. I think he was taken aback by the rejection, which makes me wonder how many times he has done this. A few times.
Caspian admitted.
And he has always succeeded.
Well, next time, give me a heads up. Also, I might have mentioned something about us throwing a party tonight. I was so angry, it slipped out before I realized what I was saying.
Sure, no worries. I'll tell Kyson to plan something small. Just invite a few of your friends.
All right.
She hung up, reflecting on the fact that most of her friends were more like acquaintances who ran in the same circles. She could count her close friends on one hand, but that didn't bother her. Turning to her agent, she said,
Sarah, can you invite a few of your friends for the party? For a small get-together. I'm inviting Bree, Rain, and Lexi.
Those were Giselle's closest friends.
And Caspian will invite some of his friends, I suppose, just to increase the numbers.
Sarah met Giselle's gaze in the rearview mirror and nodded.
Do you have the contact information for the woman who helped us during the shoot? You know, the pretty one who found the necklace?
Recognition lit up Sarah's eyes.
You mean Win?
Yes, her.
Giselle confirmed, snapping her fingers.
Invite her too.
Sure thing, Giselle.
Wynne was having second thoughts about her decision. Caspian had replied almost immediately, stating that she needed to provide a week's notice before her resignation could be accepted. As stipulated in the contract, after 4 days of avoiding Caspian, she was set to return to work.
You could just not go.
Raymond suggested. Wynne couldn't understand why he kept encouraging her to quit. For one, she loved her job and didn't want to start searching for a new one.
I have to. The contract I signed specifies that I must give a week's notice before I can officially resign. What if I can't get a new job because of this?
Wynne replied.
Whatever, Win. Do as you please.
Raymond said curtly before leaving her room. His behavior puzzled her. She had done everything he asked, so why was he upset?
Forget about him.
Wynne muttered and dragged herself out of bed to the bathroom. When she returned, She sat on her bed and checked her phone and found several missed calls from an unknown number. Just as she was about to return the call, the same number dialed her.
Hello? Is this Win?
It was a voice she recognized.
Hello. Yes, this is Win. Who is this?
Sarah, Gazelle's agent.
Sarah? Hey, did something happen?
Sarah chuckled and replied.
No, but Gazelle needs your help.
What could Giselle possibly need from her?
Ooh, I'll help however I can.
Well, she's throwing a party, a small one with her closest friends, and she wants to invite you.
Me?
Win was taken aback.
Why?
To thank you for finding the necklace. Oh, wait, she wants to talk to you.
There was a brief shuffling sound as the phone changed hands, and then Gazelle's voice came through.
Hi, Winner. If you can't make it, it's fine, but I'd really love to have you there. Consider it a small way of me saying thank you. You won't refuse, will you?
How could Win possibly refuse? Gazelle sounded so sincere and was practically begging.
What time?
7 p.m. It's going to be dinner and drinks, so dress comfortably. I'll text you the address. Love you, Win.
The line went silent, leaving Win staring at her phone in shock. Gazelle had just invited her to a party with her close friends. Did that mean Giselle considered her a close friend? Win wondered. Forget that. She was going to a party with the girlfriend of the man she had been avoiding for the past 4 days, the man to whom she had confessed. That should have been enough to send her running, but it was well established that she didn't always do what she should. Thus, by 6:50 p.m., she stood outside the address Gazelle had texted her, which turned out to be a pub. Win had contemplated whether to arrive early or late, but opted for the former so as not to be rude. Taking a deep breath, she gathered her courage and walked into the pub. Much to her surprise, the first person she encountered was Caspian. She hadn't known he would be there.
Win, what are you doing here?
He looked shocked at first, but then suspicion crept into his expression.
Hey, what are you doing here?
It sounded more like an accusation than a question.
You've been absent from work for days and now you show up at a pub. I just happen to be at. Are you stalking me?
His voice came out in a whisper. Giselle appeared around the corner and spotted Win. She waved excitedly and exclaimed,
Win, you're here. I'm so glad you found the place all right.
Approaching Win, she gave her a warm hug.
Caspian, Win isn't here to work.
She's my guest, so please don't boss her around tonight. Okay. Feeling somewhat dazed, Win let herself be dragged by Giselle as she introduced her to her friends.
This is Bree, Rain, and Lexi.
Bree and Lexi bore a resemblance that could only mean them to be sisters or cousins.
Bree and Lexi are sisters.
Giselle confirmed Win's unspoken question.
The four of us have been best friends since we were kids.
Although she wasn't in the mood to socialize after what Caspian had said to her, Win forced a smile. It was a mistake to have come here. Minutes into the party, Win was now on first-name basis with the bartender, Alex. She was now quite drunk, and thoughts of what it would be like to kiss him filled her head. Fortunately, she had enough sense to know better and refrained from doing so.
Easy there.
Gazelle chimed in with a laugh as she danced by with Rain. Caspian, on the other hand, Win didn't need to look to know where he was. He was seated at a table with Kyson, and they had been there for nearly an hour, which was roughly the same amount of time Win had been drinking.
Gazelle is so pretty.
Win slurred her words to the bartender, Alex.
But her boyfriend is such a buzzkill. Shh.
She raised a finger to her lips, or maybe it was her nose. She wasn't entirely sure. Nevertheless, the bartender chuckled.
I think you should stop drinking now. Win.
Alex suggested.
Fine.
Win replied with a smile, or at least she hoped it was a smile, and clumsily rose from her bar stool.
I'm going to the restroom.
What she hadn't anticipated was her legs giving way, causing her to nearly kiss the floor.
I'm fine.
She insisted when Alex tried to help her up. She really should have heeded Ray's advice not to drink when he wasn't around. After struggling through a visit to the restroom, Win staggered back outside and took in a deep breath of fresh air. She inhaled and exhaled deeply before her eyes landed on a yellow car parked nearby.
Taxi?
She thought, and as luck would have it, the vehicle was unlocked. So she climbed into the taxi.
Win. Has anyone seen Win? Did she leave already?
Someone asked. It sounded like Gazelle.
I saw her leave a few minutes ago.
Another voice replied. That was the last thing Win heard before she passed out in the taxi. It wasn't a taxi.
Do you need me to drive you home, sir?
It was past 10 p.m., I can see, and Caspian was ready to call it a night.
No, I didn't drink.
He replied, Kaisen.
Get home safe.
After bidding farewell to the rest of the party, he headed out to his car, a yellow Ford Mustang, noticing that one person was missing. She had unexpectedly shown up at the party, and he had accused her of stalking him. To be fair, what else was he supposed to think? He had no idea. She was friends with Gazelle. He inserted the key into the ignition, preparing to move out of the parking lot when something inside the car caught his attention. Had an animal somehow gotten inside? He turned off the car. Caspian jumped when he realized that the moving object was not an animal, but a person who at the party had been wearing a dark blue shirt and jeans. When she was in his car, 1 minute he had seen her drinking at the bar, and the next she had vanished, so he had assumed she had left. But no, she had made her way into his car somehow. His initial reaction was anger, not because she was in his car, but because she was so reckless. How could she just enter a random car like that? Now, he had to figure out what to do.
Owen?
He shook her gently, but she didn't stir. Logically, the right course of action would be to call a taxi to take her home, but he had no idea where she lived, so that was out of the question.
Forget it.
He restarted the car and began driving toward his own home, all the while muttering under his breath.
I'm not a babysitter.
As he pulled into the parking lot of his apartment building, Wynne started to wake up.
Where? Caspian?
Her head felt groggy, and she was disoriented, but she knew something wasn't right.
I didn't know where you lived, so I brought you home with me.
Home? Did you take me out of the taxi?
Caspian rolled his eyes, unable to stop himself. She was being ridiculous.
Fortunately for you, you didn't get into a taxi. You got into my car, and since I don't know where you live, I brought you here. Get it?
She let out an exaggerated squeal and crossed her arms around her body.
You're not planning to do anything to me, are you?
Then she pointed a finger at him and wiggled it, quite dramatically.
Get out.
He wasn't serious. Well, maybe he was a little.
Don't worry, Wynne. Luckily for you, you got in my car, and since I'm so nice, you can have my house tonight. I'll sleep somewhere else.
As Caspian was carrying Wynne into his apartment, she passed out again. He placed her gently on his bed and, being a gentleman, made sure to cover her with blankets before leaving for the living room, where he intended to sleep on the couch. The ringing of her phone abruptly woke Wynne up. She groggily rolled around in the bed for a few seconds, feeling the softness of the blankets. They weren't familiar. Then her eyes shot open. This wasn't her house. Wynne scrambled to grab her purse from the floor and fumbled to answer the ringing phone.
Winnie,
Raymond's voice was filled with alarm.
where are you?
I think.
Wynne looked around, the room's pictures on the wall offering clues about where she was.
I think I'm at Caspian's house.
What? When? What the heck?
Raymond's voice rose in frustration, but Wynne had to move the phone away from her ear. Her head was throbbing, and she needed to think. A quick search of the house confirmed that she was the only one there.
Did you drink again?
Winnie remained silent.
Maybe.
When?
Ray whined her name.
Fine, Ray. You were right. Lesson learned. I'm never drinking outside again. I know how it looks, and it's honestly one of the dumbest things I've ever done. I was so mad last night and tried to drink it away. The good part in all this is that Caspian's not home. In fact, I don't think he slept. Here.
You don't know that, Wynne.
She did know, because she had checked her phone and found a message from Caspian confirming what she just said. Wynne chose to believe because he had no reason to lie.
Ray, I'm still in the clothes I wore yesterday night, so don't worry, and I swear I will never drink again.